We're all making history today. We should be all proud that I'm the first woman chief for the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs.
Tonight, historic win, the first female Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs.
If this is how our courts operate, that's a failure to Canada, to our court system.
The family of an Alberta woman killed says justice was not served.
I think we have to work on expanding this to ensure that everyone who wants to be involved can be involved.
And youth across the country take on water woes in their communities. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. There has been a fatal house fire in the northern city of Thompson, Manitoba. 4 young children died of their injuries in hospital after they were trapped on the second floor of their home Wednesday morning. The children were 4, 7, 9, and 10 years old. 3 other residents got out alive. In a statement, Northern Grand Chief Garrison Satie said, quote, "This tragedy will impact people in Thompson, but also in MKO First Nations, as the family has ties to 2 of our communities. I stand with all those who are mourning," end quote. Still in Manitoba, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs has a new leader. As Sav Jonesa tells us, it came down to 2 ballots.
It was a historical by-election for the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs yesterday. 59 chiefs from First Nations throughout Manitoba voted for their new Grand Chief. Just 2 of the 7 candidates made it after 2 rounds of voting. Cathy Merrick came through with the 50% plus 1 majority vote as required by the rules. She is the first woman elected since the Assembly's inception in 1988.
Everyone in attendance, I'd like to welcome your new Grand Chief, Cathy Merrick.
We're all making history today. We should be all proud that I'm the first woman chief for the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. I will work hard for our people. I will work hard for the small communities that think that they don't have a voice. I will work hard for our nations to be represented in the Assembly.
Grand Chief Cathy Merrick will succeed AMC's former Grand Chief, Arlene Dumas, who was removed due to harassment and sexual assault allegations. We met up with Grand Chief Cathy Merrick after she was sworn in.
It's so exciting to be given a mandate from the chiefs, 37 chiefs believing in me to take our organization, our Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs to places, to do all that good work with them. I work for them, but they gave me that mandate to do that for them. So I'm going to correct a lot of things in a good way, in a good heart, because I'm going there on behalf of the children, on behalf of women, on behalf of our men and our youth.
Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
It was a somewhat symbolic day in the House of Commons today. NDP MP Leah Gazan reintroduced a motion to recognize what happened in Canada's residential school system as an act of genocide. Gazan had introduced the same motion last year. Back then it failed to pass, but Thursday afternoon it was passed unanimously.
That in the opinion of the House that the government must recognize what happened in Canada's Indian residential schools as genocide as acknowledged by Pope Francis and in accordance with Article 2 of the United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. Carried.
We'd like to hear what you think about the House of Commons recognizing the residential school system as an act of genocide. Here's how you can reach out. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on our website. That's aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. You can follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. In southern Alberta, the family of a Blackfoot woman is grieving after her remains were found in Lethbridge County. 34-year-old Tia Blood was reported missing earlier this month. Her body was located in a rural area near Lethbridge Monday evening. Following an autopsy, RCMP said the manner of death is inconclusive and remains under investigation. In connection to that investigation, Hunter Frank of Lethbridge has been arrested and charged with indignity to human remains and 2 counts of theft. Family members took to social media to say Blood was a shining light and will be missed. They ask for privacy. She was a wife and a mother of 2. Nature Duperon was a 25-year-old Cree mother of 3. In 2019, she was beaten, drugged, and then left to die in the woods near Hinton, Alberta. 2 defendants pled guilty to second-degree murder in September. Last week, another was found guilty of second-degree murder, and another defendant was found guilty of manslaughter. APTN's Chris Stewart spoke to Nature's parents about their daughter and their thoughts on the court system.
So, Cheryl and Donald, thank you for doing this. Can you tell me what your daughter was like?
Well, she was beautiful. She was very lovely and full of laughter and joy, but she also suffered with some depression. And Nature was very loving. She was very caring, very happy, and she had a laugh that was so bubbly, and she was a great sister.
How are her children doing?
They struggle, but for the most part, they do pretty good. Our 3 little boys are 6, 9, and 10 now. They struggle, but they're doing the best that they can. They miss their mommy. There's not a lot of supports in place for the children. So we as family, we're their supports. We raised the youngest one, Uriah. He's 6 years old now. And my mom raises the 2 older ones.
The judge says that the criteria for first-degree murder wasn't met. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. I'm very angry and disgusted with that sentencing when there has been and is sufficient evidence to support first-degree murder charges. There was instances of how they were going to get rid of our daughter. A discussion of a call, which was a decision to get rid of her, was one topic. Another was to get rid of Nature in Alberta Beach, but it was too public of a place. And the third was when they decided to turn it to Highway 40 at Grant Cache. And with all this sufficient evidence of pre-planning, and this being one entire event from the robbery, rape to murder, how it does not qualify as first-degree murder, I don't know.
Both girls confined her and put her in the back of that truck on the floorboard. And then they just continued to abuse her. I can't say the extent of what my daughter had went through, but that's a long drive all the way to past Hinton. So I can't imagine with how much torture she has gone through in that time frame. And so, yeah, I'm not happy with that decision.
You said the justice system has failed?
Very much so. Like, if this is how our courts operate, that's a failure to Canada, to our court system. I'm sad to call myself a Canadian and a part of this country when our justice system is working like this and you're not getting a fair sentence for what has transpired.
Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
APTN has reached out to the Alberta Department of Justice but has not heard back. A Manitoba MLA has proposed a new bill to add a specialty license plate in order to honor missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and two-spirited people. Point Douglas MLA Bernadette Smith proposed the private member's bill seeking support to amend the Drivers and Vehicles Act. Manitoba drivers could choose 2 different license plate designs honoring MMIWG2S, which would also raise money for the families Proceeds from the license plate will go towards a charity for the benefit of MMIWG2S family members. Smith's sister, Claudette Osborne Tayo, went missing in 2008. Today, the bill passed second reading, with a few more steps needed before becoming official.
You know, resoundingly, I hear from families that they feel like their loved ones have been forgotten, that they feel like people aren't connected to the issue, and that there's not enough awareness being raised around this issue. So this would be a way for us in this House, you know, as leaders in this province, to stand with those families, to help those families feel like they're not alone. But not only us in this House, but Manitobans.
With all the things on our license plates in Manitoba, hopefully that will pass. With winter on its way, residents in remote Dene communities say they're bracing for housing issues to only get worse. Our reporter Charlotte Moore Jacobs takes us to the Northwest Territories for this look at an upcoming story.
I'm Charlotte Moore Jacobs. Coming up on APTN National News, Mildred Lockhart pails out raw sewage from her home, sometimes up to 16 buckets a day. She and her elected leader make up the many voices desperately calling for housing repairs.
Mildred has been idle. She's sought help from the Housing NWT through the Emergency Repair Program in March of this year. She was told her house income was too high to qualify for a program.
That's coming up soon.
Welcome back. Nunavut's lawmakers are back in Iqaluit for the fall session of the Nunavut Legislative Assembly. The first session is when you find out what the MLAs have been doing during the break, and yesterday was no exception. Nitsalik MLA Joseph Kugiak used his member's statement to inform the Assembly that he's facing criminal charges, so he'll be taking a leave of absence from the Assembly. As soon as his statement was finished, he left the Assembly floor and did not take questions. Here is what he had to say.
Earlier this month, an incident occurred in my home community of Taloriak. The incident involved both my partner and I. It is now a matter of public record that both of us have been charged with assault under the criminal code. Mr. Speaker, as a legislator, I fully appreciate that we do not interfere with the justice system and the operations of the courts. These charges will be dealt with appropriately through the judicial process.
Indigenous youth are taking part in a national challenge to solve their community's drinking water challenges. High school students from the Nunavut region in Quebec traveled to British Columbia to address their water problem, which has included school closures. APTN's Lee Wilson has more.
I felt very nervous to talk in front of people.
Last week, 7 students from Acoustic High School traveled to a British Columbia campus to meet with researchers, entrepreneurs, and First Nation water operators to discuss their community's water challenge. It is part of a pilot project by Rousseau Centre for Mobilizing Innovation that started earlier this year. They are based out of the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. The students shared their central water treatment plant delivers water to each house and school. Sometimes there's not enough water, so the school needs to close.
We spent 2 weeks without water. It's too crazy because you don't have something. You cannot wash, you cannot take a shower, to cook. If you have no water in your kitchen, you cannot cook.
According to Rousseau, in 6 communities, students K through 12 are taking part in the Indigenous Youth Potable Water Challenge across Canada. Kim Brown, a Tsimshian water engineer and advisor for the Water Challenge, says more communities wanted to take part but did not have staffing or mentors available in their areas. They'll need to find more ways for youth to get involved without putting a burden on the communities.
I think we have to work on expanding this to ensure that everyone who wants to be involved can be involved, and we have some barriers to get over with helping communities with capacity.
Brown says seeing the students' willingness to learn and engage has been inspiring. She added that clean drinking water problems in Indigenous communities are still an issue that needs to be addressed. She says in some places, they're getting worse due to droughts, which leads to water shortages.
I think a lot of people are aware of the boil water advisories that happen from quality, but the less kind of talked about things are water shortages. What happens when there is no water? What happens when the wells run dry? Do we drill another well, for example, or do we find another source? And then that introduces even more where, well, now you're going to have to design new treatment.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Kitimat.
The deadline is coming for the 4 host First Nations in BC to complete the last steps to make a formal bid for the 2030 Winter Olympics. Joining us from Vancouver is APTN's Tina House and Chief Wayne Sparrow from the Musqueam Indian Band to give us an update.
Thank you. Joining me today is Chief Wayne Sparrow from the Musqueam First Nation. Chief Sparrow, can you tell us about the developments with the 2030 bid for the Olympics?
Well, very disappointing. We just found out, we found out 2 days ago that the province was considering not supporting the 4 host nations-led 2030 Olympic bid. And we asked the Minister Bear to hold off on that announcement until we had the appropriate people in the room to hear our concerns. There was a meeting scheduled for Friday, and then lo and behold, today they made the announcement anyway at 11 o'clock saying that they're not going to be in support at this time.
Did they give any reason why they're not going to be in support when there is such a groundswell of support from all First Nations here on the Lower Mainland?
I think we hear some of the concerns that they do have. They're talking about the opioid crisis that are here in the Lower Mainland, housing issues that are there, but a big part of the housing issue was working with the nations on affordable housing as part of the bid, so we were kind of confused with that kind of approach, but they just they had different priorities, I guess, than hosting the Olympics, and we're looking at different things with a new leader and the Premier coming in. That's what we got out of the meeting.
Chief, can you tell us about the benefits for First Nations and in fact all British Columbians if that 2030 bid is successful?
Well, it would have been huge for all of us, reconciliation, to me is only a word until the actions start following behind it, but it would have been a perfect opportunity to not only just in BC and in Canada, but for the whole world to see that taking a step forward from 2010, that not only we got invited to the Olympics as kind of an afterthought, and then to be leading and being able to host for the whole world to see would have been exciting, not just for the 4 host nations, but all First Nations across this country.
Is this the end of the road now for the bid for the 4 host First Nations here?
I would have to say we're going to have some discussion, but we're going to also talk to the federal government, and hopefully it's not. I'm hoping that the way the provincial government announced with the World Cup, FIFA, that they weren't in support and then came back, but the timelines are very short. For the IOC, it has to be in by the end of November, so only time will tell.
Chief Sparrow, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Back to you in studio.
Thanks, Tina. A Saskatchewan family is feuding on national television. Details coming up after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. This is the view at Georgian Bay, located near Parry Sound, Ontario. Mandy from Wasauksing First Nations sent in this beauty of a shot of the waters and cloud formations. Great pic, Mandy. Thanks. You can send your photos by email to share@aptn.ca. We want to see your community, family, land, and anything else fun or important to you. Now let's take a look at Friday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 10 in Halifax, sunny, and 9 for Fredericton. 0 with snow in Kuujjuaq, snow and +2 for Nain. Sunny and 10 in Montreal, sun's out, and 8 for Chibougamau. 11 in Sault Ste. Marie, 10 for North Bay. 14 with showers in Thunder Bay, 12 and rain in Sioux Lookout. 10 for God's Lake, Thompson, and Norway House. 12 and sunny for Winnipeg, Brandon, and Dauphin. 7 under the sun in Regina, 12 in Saskatoon. 12 in Meadow Lake, sunny and 6 for Stony Rapids. In northern Alberta, 9 for Fort McMurray and Grand Prairie. 13 In Lethbridge with rain, showers and 12 for Edmonton. Rain and 11 for Vancouver, 14 and cloudy in Kamloops. 9 under the sun in Prince George, rain and 6 for Smithers. -6 with snow in Old Crow, flurries and 2 below in Whitehorse. 0 with snow in Yellowknife, -6 in Norman Wells. -23 in Sax Harbor, 7 below for Polituck. +4 and rain in Chesterfield, showers and 3 in Whale Cove. -26 with snow in Resolute, 3 below and snow in Igloolik. Now to an attempted robbery caught on camera. A hungry BC bear trying its best to get a snack was spotted in Squamish attempting to break into a garbage bin. Despite tugging, biting, and tipping it over, the bear was out of luck. Conservation officials say it highlights the importance of properly securing trash in the area, especially this time of year right before hibernation. The Morin family from Big River, Saskatchewan recently flew to Toronto to take a chance at winning some money. Dabney Warren, a member of the Big River First Nation, a Cree community in north central Saskatchewan, was a contestant on CBC Gem Family Feud Canada that aired this week. Warren, her husband, and some of her siblings competed 2 nights in a row for $10,000. Warren says it was a fun experience for all of her family members. They were able to represent First Nations people, fashion, and humor in a positive setting. The episodes aired Monday and Tuesday night on CBC Gem and can be found on the Gem CBC online app.
Even though that we didn't win like the $10,000, we came out with so much more than just money, right? We had experiences. We were able to represent our communities and our Indigenous people. We were able to send a message out there. We were able to, showcase our beadwork and Indigenous designs.
Positive spin on the loss. Just ahead, another fully loaded episode of Nation to Nation. Here's Lindsay Richardson with a quick look.
Thanks, Winnipeg. And we're all set up here to unpack another week in federal politics. On the docket tonight, is the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal's rejection of a child welfare settlement good or bad news? Will removing mandatory minimum sentences better protect Indigenous women? And finally, does the federal government really value Indigenous language proficiency among its employees? The answers to those questions coming up in just a few minutes.
That does sound like a stacked show. Thanks, Lindsay. We'll see you in about 2 minutes' time. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. Of course, for news anytime and more on anything you've seen here, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Stick around. Nation to Nation's next. Have a great night.